Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Relay Throw presented by Centerfield Marist. We're not in Poughkeepsie, we're in Atlantic City. I'm alongside Ben Leeds and MAAC Commissioner Travis Tellitocci. Travis, thank you so much for having us here in Atlantic City.
Appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys today.
How's everything going?
So far, so good. We're into day 3, and so far, no major issues, which is great, and expecting a great night of basketball tonight as well.
Absolutely. Ben, would you like to start?
Yeah, so how was your first year as commissioner full-time? Has that lived up to your expectations? Has it been more? Has it been less?
Yeah, it's been a busy year, obviously. Started it officially in May, and when I first started, my goal was to visit all 11 campuses. So through May, through June, worked really hard to get to all of our campuses, which was great. Had an opportunity to listen to our presidents and our athletic directors and coaches, student athletes on campus, which was really good for me to be able to hear, what is the league doing well, where are the areas that we can improve, and since then we've added 2 members, which is obviously great for the league. It builds our foundation, and as part of that, you've got to relook at schedules and all of the logistics that goes into that. So it's been a really busy first year going into our strategic plan and a lot of projects that are underway right now.
Absolutely. So coming from the Ohio Valley Conference, what really drew you back to the MAAC? You're a Marist guy.
Yeah, so attended a MAAC school in Marist and worked at Marist for 10 years on campus, so very familiar with the league. Having worked on campus in both the external side and then the business side as well, the internal side, really gave me a good perspective of how an athletic department functions. And then when I left Marist to take that job at the OVC, that really added to my resume in the sense of the conference side of experience. So spent 6.5 years there running our basketball championship, overseeing football and baseball as well. So I think the 2 experiences combined really helped me on this path to take this job as the MAAC. It was a little bit of a homecoming for me, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Rich Henser was the commissioner for the past 35 years before retiring. Was he helpful in kind of turning the conference over to you, like in the process of that?
Absolutely. I was announced as the commissioner in February, and from February really through June, Rich stayed on through June 30th, that we worked closely to make sure we had a smooth transition. That was really important to both of us as he was going out and I was coming in, making sure there was an understanding of the budget and various areas of operation. Obviously, Rich was there for 35 years, did a great job, got a lot of things started, very forward thinking in terms of ESPN and Disney and those relationships. So he was definitely very helpful in the transition, and we still talk often, as well as questions come up and as we are preparing to look at different things as well.
Absolutely. Now we're going to shift to the Marist athletic side of things, where you worked for a good portion of your career. So you were working at such a high level in the department while getting your master's. So if you could just take me through what that was like.
Yeah, I probably waited a little too long to do my master's, but I was fortunate when working in the department, had the opportunity. At that point, they started the integrated marketing communication master's. So it was an online master's degree. Online is a little harder, in my opinion, than actually going to class. You have to be really disciplined and stay on track, and it's a whole different model of learning. But that was a great opportunity for me to earn that. I was interested, obviously, in the communication side. That was what my undergraduate was in. So combining the communications and then the business side of it and the marketing a little bit as well was very appealing and worked out pretty well.
Yeah, so as a follow-up, what type of things did you get involved in as a student at Marist?
Yeah, so I was involved in a lot as a student. Number one was campus ministry, served on the campus ministry advisory board with Brother Frank Kelly. I also participated in WMAR, did a radio show, with a couple of people as part of that, called Games, and then really got heavily involved into MCTV. Eventually went on to be the president of MCTV my senior year. So, that was a passion. We We didn't have the technology that obviously you guys have today. We used a lot of cables and a lot of makeshift things to make it work, but we were really proud of that, to do live games, to call live games, doing it all ourselves. We did a preseason NIT show when they hosted the NIT, kind of like a college game day thing. So those were a lot of projects that we were really proud of during my time, and obviously, again, a different time in technology as well.
Yeah. So some of those MCTV projects, how did that prepare you for work after college?
I thought I wanted to be a sportscaster, be on the air, be on Sports Center. So really had an interest in that. I think as I went along and went to the Mets for my first job, it was in the production side, production entertainment. I worked in the control room and on the field, and I started to like the marketing aspect more than the live production aspect. So, shifted when I went to Marist to more of the external thing that I was overseeing that area. I think it helped immensely from the sense that as I'm sitting here, negotiating a television media rights deal, I know the ins and outs of the production side. So it's helpful for me to understand when you're sitting at that table what goes into a production, what goes into making a broadcast work. So it was incredibly helpful.
So how did that Mets job come about?
So it was interesting. I interned actually in the Marist athletic department. I believe that was my junior year, and the person at the time, the senior associate athletic director, got a letter from the New York Mets asking for students that were interested in internship opportunities, and he passed it along to me, and I applied, got the internship the summer of going into my senior year. So it was really through Marist that I got the Mets internship, and then from the Mets internship, that turned into a full-time job opportunity. So again, just a good example of how one thing led to another great opportunity.
And coming back to the MAAC, what was the kind of landscape like in the conference? Was it the same as when you left from Marist the second time?
I think I was brought in for this position to have a fresh perspective coming from a different conference, and the presidents were very candid to me about, you're being brought in to take a fresh look at things. So I think it's been a good opportunity for me to take a look at how things have been done in the past, and are there ways that we can help elevate the brand of the conference and just all of our member institutions overall. So I think there are some things that were the same, some things that obviously changed over that 6.5 years, but that's been part of my first year, is really assessing what's worked, what doesn't work, and how do we change it to make things better.
So we're going to shift gears to the Ohio Valley Conference part of Travis's life. So Travis, you mentioned that you were a tournament manager for football and baseball and men's and women's basketball. What did that role really entail?
Yeah, so starting with football, really overseeing our regular season operations. We didn't have a conference championship, FCS level. You don't have bowl games, and you don't have conference championships. So it was really overseeing that day-to-day operation of football. A lot of involvement with officiating and replay. We had implemented, when I first got there, my first year, we implemented replay for the first time in the league. So was really hands-on with that project. As I mentioned, the officiating, and then just overall working with the coaches, running head coaches meetings, and really just trying again to elevate football. In terms of basketball, overseeing our championship operations, same thing day to day with our basketball operations. But we had a great run when I was there in Evansville. We moved our tournament from Nashville to Evansville, and Belmont Murray State, obviously a lot of success was there for Ja Morant. We set the single attendance record for our conference tournament. I had over 10,000 fans in the building. So it was a really, really special time, and very similar with baseball as well, regular season operations and overseeing the championship.
Yeah, so touching on Ja Morant, with his time at the OVC, like a mid-major, what was kind of the experience like, the game plan with a guy who was ultimately the number 2 overall pick in the draft?
Yeah, so he started obviously his freshman year and could tell he was a good talent, good player. there, but didn't hit that real level. And I think you started to see halfway through his sophomore season, there was one moment in that season that he had a dunk against UT Martin that went viral on SportsCenter, and then from there, it just really started to pick up steam. Obviously, a great rivalry with Belmont. That game got elevated to ESPN2 and really just brought in a national audience. But the most funny part of that whole experience was during our tournament, his sophomore year, before he left. Obviously a lot of buzz, and I got a phone call on Friday morning before the semifinals. We had a double bye format, and they were playing that night that Magic Johnson was going to fly into the Evansville airport. So between that game, we had Magic Johnson sitting courtside, we had Larry Fitzgerald in the stands, and it was really just a great experience to see what the buzz was around him. And as I mentioned, we set the single attendance record on Friday night and then broke it on Saturday the next night. So it was a really great experience.
Absolutely. Now we're going to shift back to the MAAC now. So what does the process look like in adding teams like Sacred Heart and Merrimack?
Yeah, so we have a membership committee which is comprised of a few of our presidents and an athletic director. And when I first got to the MAAC, one of the things that was very important to me was to make sure that from a membership standpoint that we were solid. Obviously, with conference realignment and being at 11 schools, you constantly are looking at who could be coming, who could be going, what are the other opportunities out there. So that committee set priorities forth to say, if we're going to add member institutions, this is the criteria that we're looking at. Obviously, basketball-centric schools, great academic profile, geography, a big piece of that as well. And then what does their enrollment look like from that standpoint? Are they a school on the rise, or are they a school on the decline in enrollment? So those were the important pieces of criteria. We vetted a lot of different schools and came out to land on Merrimack Sacred Heart, which I think will be two really great additions to the league. In Merrimack, we capture that Boston market, which we haven't really been in Massachusetts before from a league perspective. And then in Sacred Heart, obviously from a geography standpoint, they're right there in Fairfield. So I think it tightens our footprint, but yet expands us into different markets as well.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on how the process comes about, but what do you expect from these two teams as they come into the MAAC?
Yeah, Merrimack was just in their conference championship game this past week. A sellout crowd, obviously a great atmosphere. So I think from a basketball perspective, both are very strong in their current conference. I had the opportunity to speak at Sacred Heart a few weeks ago before one of their basketball games, and they were unveiling their renovations to the Pitt Center. So big plans for that building. So from a facility standpoint, they're investing. Merrimack as well. So I think both of them will bring that aspect to the conference, that they're going to invest in their programs, and that's something that I get really excited about.
Absolutely. And I know that Sacred Heart was in the MAAC this year for lacrosse and last year, so I've seen that competitive nature that they have already. So lastly, Travis, where do you see the MAAC in 5 years?
Yeah, you guys know this, covering sports. The college athletics is really crazy right now, and name, image, and likeness, and the transfer portal, and all of the litigation out there right now against the NCAA. So I think as I look at our conference, how do we navigate those issues? Some of those things we have absolutely no control over. I think it's something that obviously as a group of commissioners and with the NCAA, we're constantly talking about those issues and trying to find solutions to some of those problems. I think we've been probably a little slow as an NCAA addressing some of those issues, but now I think people's attentions are focused in those areas. But as I look at the MAAC, my goal is continue to elevate the conference, and from a branding perspective, taking a look at our name, our logo, and one of the things that I've always said is our name is confusing, because when you say the MAAC, well, is that the football MAAC? Is that the MAAC with 2 A's? Are we the other MAAC? It becomes kind of a negative where you're explaining what your name is. So we've looked at that from a branding perspective, but this strategic plan has been very helpful because we've had focus groups, we've had surveys. We had over 3,500 people participate in the survey that we sent out, and that's what we're asking is, what do you see that the conference needs to do to continue to elevate? And as you mentioned, 5 years, that's the goal right now, is we're trying to set that vision for the next 5 years so that as the NCAA changes, we can adapt with that as well.
Thank you guys for watching. That is all we have today. Travis, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate the opportunity.